Hello and what's up, everyone? I hope you're having a good Memorial Day weekend, and welcome to Doop on the Volley, Philly Sports Network Union podcast. We got a team of three here today going through your Philadelphia Union news, and there's a lot to talk about, especially since the last time we were on was over a week ago now. So we have some games to talk about. We have some off-the-field things to talk about in terms of players and a raccoon. And then also we get to preview the Union going down to Charlotte, trying to stay unbeaten on the road, which is just a crazy thing to say in and of itself. I am Tim Lovinguth, and I'm here today with Paul and Eric. Paul, how are you doing, buddy? How's your Saturday going?
My Saturday has probably been the best Saturday that it's been in a while. United ended City's win run. I got to see my team lift the trophy. Garnacho and Kobe Mino, the two youth academy products, scoring, which as a Union supporter, I love my youth academy teams coming up and doing that. So let's hope the Union continue tonight. Continue the nice winning run, that little winning, I guess, win streak, continue that, and then continue the great weekend.
Yeah, man. Like, hey, it's the vibes are up right now, especially if you're a United fan or if you just don't like Man City and how they go about their business. Eric, how are you doing this weekend?
I'm doing great. It's been a fun day of soccer. There's lots of different cup finals and stuff to watch all morning and afternoon, and now MLS in the evening.
Yeah.
It's been a good day of soccer, and like Paul said, I hope it continues into this evening with the Union.
Yeah, it's really it's one of the last weekends where we have this kind of soccer where it's club soccer all day. We'll get to the summer, like we'll get to some of the international tournaments that are coming up. A little wink wink for you guys there on coverage coming up on that. But yeah, we're here to talk about Union right now, and we haven't been on for a little bit. We had a preview show right before the New York City match last week, and the Union had two matches last week, at home against New York City and then away at New England. So we're going to throw it all the way back to 2 Wednesdays ago now and talk about Union versus New York City in a game where I think a lot of us were very hopeful that the Union would end a winless streak that was almost getting towards a month long. And they did not do that in that game against New York City. City came in and scored in the second minute on a counterattack where the Union looked like a U12 soccer team. Just was not great at all. It was so bad. And then there was a raccoon that came on the field. We'll definitely get to talk about that, because the raccoon has been on the field longer than Ty Barabo this year. So that's cool. Then we saw a second goal from New York City just before halftime on basically an Olympico, even though it was a free kick near the corner flag. Union came out in the second half. Julian Carranza hit a banger of a free kick to get one back, but Union couldn't get a second. So it was a 2-1 loss all the way, 2 Wednesdays ago now. But guys, just initial thoughts on that loss, which we would see be the last loss, at least in a month-long winless streak for your Philadelphia Union. I'll throw it over to Eric first on this one.
Honestly, I have trouble remembering anything from the game besides the raccoon. It was like you said, once again we saw those defensive errors, and that just like, it gets very tiring talking about the same thing, and we've touched on this obviously because it keeps happening.
Mm-hmm.
Watching the team go down and then have to try and fight back and sometimes succeed, except if for whatever reason at home they haven't been able to get those fight backs going at least all the way. They get, they'll get a goal and then can't get the second one because they're always seemingly 2 goals down at least. Yeah, it's. I almost wish today was a home game just to give us the chance coming off, and like we'll get to the New England game, but
Yeah.
coming off some positivity, it would be nice to really just end this now record winless streak at home. Now we can stop using the caveat of league game and just say overall it's the most the longest winless streak. But like it's I don't know, it's weird. It's hard to even fathom in some ways, just because for so long this team's identity has been winning at home.
Yeah.
Now they've lost more games at home this season than they have across the last like 3 years.
I know.
It's mind-boggling, and the fact that you had the game that breaks that record followed up by a game that I think for the Union at least is a record for going unbeaten in away games to start the season. Having those two records come in back-to-back games is wild.
It truly is. It's like it's a tale of two teams right now. And Paul, you were there that night in the press box. What was kind of your vantage point? Were you able to go into the locker room after the game and kind of like assess the vibes of the team and things like that?
I was not that night. It was a late night. I had to be at work early the next morning, so unfortunately I had to get out and leave. But I assume, if I had to make a guess, I assume the vibes weren't the best. You're a team that's you're a team that wins at home. Yeah. You really don't lose at home, and you just lost your fourth consecutive match at home. And honestly, if you don't have defensive errors, those errors, it's a game that I feel like you could have won. You made your chances. Yeah. In my opinion, Carranza had that beauty of a free kick. I know we're going to talk about it in the future. I think the vibes to this team were changed with the recent New England match. Yeah. I think you showed that the team that you can be. But the New England match, I just want to win at home again. I just want to see the Subaru Park happy. But I will say one thing. Ever since Union Yards opened up, the Union at home have not been a beauty of a thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, luckily they did, Union did win last weekend up in New England. So the Union Yards curse, at least for winning games, and it was a road game. So, they did win a game when Union Yards has existed. Now we have to wait another week to see if the Union can get a win at home with Union Yards being there. But guys, let's just get right to it. The thing that we actually want to talk about from this game was the fact that there was a raccoon on the field for almost 2.5 minutes. I've never seen anything like it. And just to put it into context, so I was in the stands, as I usually am for those games, getting the sights and sounds for everybody on the Doop on the Volley Twitter account. And all I heard out of when I was watching the game, I was frustrated as anything because New York City was already up. I hear one of my friends in the supporter section say, "Oh my God, is that a raccoon?" Now, this was not when the raccoon was on the field. So we're sitting in 139, and from the walkway to the concourse, she spotted this raccoon, and this raccoon went up the steps and down the stands. Like, I kid you not, like you could see people almost look like they're doing the wave to stand up because there is a freaking raccoon at the then it takes another few seconds. It gets to almost to the field. It goes down between the player benches, and you start to see both teams stand up. And I'm like, at that point, oh my God, this raccoon is about to go on the field. Like, what happened? What is going on? What kind of sign is this? I'm like trying to spin it in my head. Like, is this a good omen, a bad omen? What is going on? And then, of course, as we all know, that raccoon made its way onto the field and was there for a long time. And became a viral sensation, and that just so happened to be during a game that was quote unquote part of our MLS rivalry week against New York City, and kind of showcased just how trash the team was with the trash panda coming on the field. So I want to get your guys' thoughts on the raccoon. Paul, I'll throw it to you first. So you said for the game you were up in the press box, at least for the game. So how was it up there? I know everyone was kind of scrambling, trying to get, videos, pictures of it. So how was it for you?
Yeah, it was it was a time to say the least. So where I was, you really couldn't see where the raccoon ran on the field.
Yeah.
So I was my view is towards the supporters, basically supporters section, the right side of the field in my view. So I just see the referee blow the whistle, and I'm watching the game. I'm not watching a raccoon run on the field. I'm like, what is he blowing the whistle for? Like I couldn't tell any idea why he stopped the game. Then I hear people like, oh my God, is that an animal? So I look down and you just see the raccoon just running around the field. And I was like, only in Major League Soccer that you see a raccoon run on the field. And the fact that it was on the pitch for over 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And it was breaking the ankles of many people. It was just an amazing sight to see. And you mentioned that it was a viral sensation. People had so many T-shirts for it. The Topps trading card made a trading card for it. It's just amazing, especially that this happened at Subaru Park, of all places.
I may or may not be one of the people that owns a Racoonion T-shirt now. I'm going to break it out for the next home game. I'm very excited about it.
Nice.
Eric, what were your thoughts from seeing this type of thing play out?
Yeah, I mean, well, it's a little frustrating that, you know, the scoreboard on all these viral videos, of course, the scoreboard is showing us already losing.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a shame that something went viral when we were in such a bad stretch. But yeah, like kind of like Paul was saying, when they first stopped the game, there was a lot of confusion in terms of like, why are they? It almost felt like, oh no, like what happened just like outside of play, or like just off camera. Like what did El Brujo do to someone?
Right.
Like,
yeah.
Like, or is there a fight on the benches? Like what's going on? And then it's just the fact that I'll credit to the cameraman, like camera people. They did a really good job of keeping track of that raccoon, much better than the people trying to catch it. Because it was going all over the place. It went up on the wall and all kinds of stuff. It was a nice distraction from the woes of the on-field play. I appreciated the levity that it brought, even if it was only temporary. And I did like the bit of commentary about at what point do we start rooting for it?
Yeah,
because by the time they even said that, I had already been rooting for it. So it was very, very apt. But yeah, it was a very strange circumstance and a very strange season.
Yes, it definitely was, and I mean, we'll see how it goes. But you know, since the raccoon was on the field, Union have been playing better. You know, they did. We'll kind of transition now onto to the New England match from last weekend, and you know, the Union went up to New England, a team that was struggling just as bad, if not worse, than the Union this season, and it was kind of a matchup of two teams that were kind of on the outside in the Eastern Conference, and an Eastern Conference that is stacked this year. Two teams that were in CONCACAF Champions Cup that didn't do so well, and it was sort of like, the hot seat was going to be on the coach that lost this game. It seemed like for better or worse, what it might be, and the Union came out and they played very well. And I think the red card obviously changed the game. There was a red card early for New England, and the Union were up a man for almost 75 minutes, which in the past we've seen hasn't always been that great for Philly. So, it was like, okay, you're up a man. We'll see what happens. And game kind of went on 0-0 for a little bit, both teams trading chances. New England was without a lot of players as well, we have to say, but they did still have Carlos Heel, and whenever he's on the field, he can score a goal from anywhere. So they did have a few good chances early on. I think the thing that changed the game, and we'll get into this, is Jose El Brujo Martinez did have to get subbed off in the first half with what was kind of a precautionary, maybe it looked like he could have an injury type of thing. And they brought on Jack McGlynn, who was getting a rest for the first time this season, it seems like. And he was called upon early to come in and use his magical left foot to change the game. And he did just that, with a perfect cross to find Carranza. Interesting that those two players are linking up when it seems like they might be that are on their way out of the club this summer. But anyways, the game kind of still, went on. Union scored in the first half. Second half, Gazdag got a brace. Some good goals, right place, right time type of thing. I know fans sometimes don't like that. They want him to be a little bit more creative, but hey, he scored 2 goals, and Union won 3-0 on the day. So I'll throw it over to Eric. What were your kind of main takeaways from the Union's win that broke their winless streak and got them kind of back, hopefully, on the right track here?
The 3 goals scored is always nice, but I think the main takeaway is the other score, that 0.
Yeah.
Because of all the defensive woes that we've had, it's nice to see the team get a shutout. I feel like we've said this before, so I'm not super hopeful, but hopefully we can build on this. Obviously, like you said, that red card definitely played a part. Yeah. But again, like you said, the team has not always performed very well when a man up. So it was good and a little weird to have the team perform that well with the advantage.
Yeah.
Again, we see some of the younger guys helping carry this team.
Yeah.
And you'd hope that some of the more veteran midfielders would be able to make more of an impact. But that being said, I guess a lot of the more veteran midfielders tend to be the ones that are on the more defensive side anyway.
Yeah.
It was encouraging, and I'm still not able to get my hopes up because we've been encouraged before this season and it's all kind of fallen flat. But we're away tonight, so we'll probably get a result. I need to think about that more. Yeah, I'm good. I think that's my kind of haphazard takeaway.
Hey, that's it's fine. And you brought up a really good point about being away and the Union getting points. And for those that don't know, the Union have played 7 away games this year, and they have 3 wins and 4 draws. And they are the last undefeated team on the road, just like they were the last undefeated team in MLS. And we know how that kind of went when we started bragging about all that. So we're not going to brag about it, but we're just going to show 13 points on the road this season. That's a crazy good tally. Philly is 2 games away from tying an MLS record for an unbeaten start on the road in MLS in all of its history. So, like you said, Eric, it's very odd that there's this kind of good history that's following the historically bad history at home. It really is a tale of 2 teams right now. The Union look very comfortable on the road. Jim Curtin has even mentioned it in some of his press conferences. Like the team is very organized and good at breaking teams down on the road. And he's kind of pondering why that's not happening at home when the team is sort of set up exactly the same. So Paul, what are your takeaways from this New England match? Did you see anything maybe with the lineup that you might think that the team wants to kind of keep doing going forward?
I was very excited. As Eric said about the defense, I think that's the biggest takeaway from the match. It's your first clean sheet in it was almost 2 months without a clean sheet. The last one was March 30th at home against Minnesota. So it's really big to see, I guess, the defense finally figuring it out.
Yeah.
And I know New England was down to 10 men, so I'm a little skeptical about the result. I'm not fully there yet.
Yeah.
But it's just still a big stepping stone. I think regarding the lineup, one of the most important things, someone I want to see in the lineup again tonight is Leon Flock. Yeah. Him coming back into this team is huge. He just has that defensive presence that I think when you run a lineup with McGlynn and Sullivan in midfield, I mean, they're good. They're great midfielders, of course, but they don't really have that defensive first mindset that Flock carries, which in the long run, it helps El Brujo out if he's on the pitch, and then which makes it easier for the defense. So Leon Flock, I think, coming back healthy is really big for this team.
Yeah, and it's really interesting to see his reintegration to the team. In this match, he started as the left shuttler midfielder, but then when Brujo went out, he had to drop down to the 6. And we've seen him do that a few times before, and sometimes he hasn't looked as comfortable as that single pivot. I know it was against 10 men, like you were saying, Paul. So maybe it was a little bit more, kind of eased him into it a little bit more, especially coming back that way. But yes, I think he's going to be a vital piece to what this team can really do as they move forward. And I think his calmness too is something to be talked about. We don't often talk about our midfielders looking very calm on the ball. It's maybe him and McGlynn, but Flock at times, when he has the time and space to kind of pick his head up, he's been able to sit on the ball well and find the right pass. We're not expecting him to be the playmaker, but when he has the time on the ball, he doesn't seem to be rushing the play, whereas where you see sometimes Brujo likes to take a few steps forward, take a few too many touches, and he might lose possession. Flock seems to have a little bit more calmness in that defensive mind state of, okay, where's the right pass to make? How can I make that pass? When do I have to make that pass? That sort of thing. I think he's going to be a vital player moving forward. Real quick, let's talk about the goal scorers in the game. So we saw Julian Carranza get another goal in this one. He had 2 last week, one against New York City, one against New England here, and then Daniel Gazda got 2 goals as well. And just an interesting stat to throw out there, the Union's front 3 now have 19 goals on the season. I believe Carranza has 9, Gazdag has 6, and Ua has 4. So that's a pretty good tally from your front 3, and that's pretty much where all the offense is coming from. And I know we're going to get talking about players and possible departures here in a minute, but let's talk about the good stuff from the front 3 first here. So, Paul, I'll throw it back over to you. What do you think? How do you think this front 3 is really performing, and can the Union kind of keep this up if one of them is either out injured or gets sold here in the summer?
19 goals between the 3. That's exactly when you want to see, especially when all 3 of them have they're such big names in the club. They're such a big piece. I would like to see Ura getting more goals. It's just, I say it every podcast. He has the talent. He just needs to get that finishing touch. But I do think if Carranza or Gazdag does keep it up and they're scoring 1 to 2 every single game, and I think this team they're going to remain exactly what you think they were. They're going to be picking up points every single game unless their defense falls apart. But one of the 3 continuing to keep up at the top is very crucial for the success of this team.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. Eric, how are you feeling on the front 3? And does one player kind of stick out to you as sort of the most vital piece to the puzzle here?
Carranza's the obvious answer as being the most vital piece of the puzzle, in part because he opens up more space for players like Gazdag to then be able to do what he did in this last game. I've been looking at some of the stats for recent games, and this kind of plays into the front 3 and being clinical.
Yeah.
Because against New England, we had 20 shots, 9 on target. Not there are worse ratios.
Yeah.
And obviously we scored 3 of them. Whereas looking at some of our recent home losses, if you look at the game against Orlando, we had 29 shots. 6 were on target.
Wow.
2 of those went in, but we lost that 3-2 with 29 shots. Look at the game against New York. 25 shots, only 5 on target. So it feels like the biggest, playing from behind and the defensive errors, obviously putting you in a hole doesn't help. But for whatever reason, it feels like the strikers and everyone else have been far more clinical away. And that's been the biggest difference. It's not like we're not generating the chances at home.
Yeah.
It's that we're not converting them. Because even a lot of our away games, we've gone down and had to come back, similar to the home games. So it definitely feels like as the strikers go, the team goes. And the fact that one of our more clinical, arguably, strikers is the one that could be leaving is a bit concerning. Although, to his credit, Ua has scored a few recently.
Yeah.
So we will definitely, either way, no matter what happens with Carranza, we'll need Ua to continue scoring goals. But yeah, like, and we talked about this a little bit kind of a few episodes ago. There was a little while there where the strikers weren't scoring, and that partially coincided with those home losses.
Yeah.
Obviously, Gazdag, whether you consider him a midfielder or a striker, he got 1 or 2 in there. But for Ua, Carranza, or whoever was in the starting lineup instead of them, there was a big gap there. And I think that just reinforces the idea that we need our strikers to be clinical in order to get wins, especially with the defense being a little shaky.
Yeah. I mean, that was sort of the vantage point, like the launching point. The Union have always been a good defensive team, at least in the last 3, 4, 5 seasons. And the attack was lacking. And now this year, it seems like it has flip-flopped. So we'll see how that goes as the season goes on. But we do have to talk about a player that is potentially leaving the club. Well, we know he's going to be leaving. It's just a matter of when at this point. It's Julian Carranza. And this afternoon, Tom Bogert kind of dropped a Boge bomb on us with a club that is in contract negotiations or trying to talk to him about contract negotiations. And it's Feyenoord from the Eredivisie. They look like they are the team that wants to sweep up Carranza. It said that reported here that they're talking to him about signing a contract when his contract with Philadelphia expires. However, if the two sides do come to an agreement, they will want to negotiate a summer transfer and not wait until his contract expires in the winter, which brings a whole big thought process here between us and fans and everyone else alike, and the union itself. In that we know Carranza will be leaving at some point. It just depends now if it's going to be for free or if Feyenoord wants him in the summer. They're going to have to put up some money, and we'll see how that kind of works out. We could be seeing a possible record transfer fee coming into the club, but also the Union losing their best striker. So Eric, I'll throw it over to you first for this one. What are your thought process here for Carranza, going to Feyenoord, playing in the Eredivisie, and possibly the Union getting some money for him when we didn't think that might happen?
What the team does with this transfer is going to say everything about where they think the team is at.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the team's play over the next month or so is going to play a big role in that. Because if you sell Carranza in the summer, you are throwing, and McGlynn too, you are throwing in the towel on this season. Because even if you do reinvest that money in a new striker, it's going to take them time to bed in. We've seen that over and over again. Even with some of our best players now, they took time to bed in. So I think the team's form, I think if we can put together a solid win streak over the next month or so, that dramatically increases the chances of keeping Carranza. Mm-hmm. Whether that's the right thing to do, that's going to be more, I think that's going to divide opinion a little more, and it's going to depend on whether you think this team has a realistic shot at winning MLS Cup. Because if you do, then it's worth keeping him. If you don't, then it makes more sense to sell him in the summer regardless, and at least recoup some of that money to reinvest for a run or a rebuild next season. Yeah. And I find myself going back and forth on whether selling players like Carranza and McGlynn means we need to go for more of a full rebuild or just reinvest for 1 or 2 more pieces. And I could be convinced either way, honestly, because it still feels like we're right on the cusp of getting to a point where we could win something, but part of that may just be naive or wishful thinking.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see what they do with this. And I think that it's easy to forget how young Carranza still is.
Yeah.
So I think I've found myself wondering if we're going to get more, if we sell him in the summer, if we're going to get more for him than maybe we expect because of his age and his potential ability to still get better.
Yeah. No, it's a lot to think about. I mean, I know it's only been a few hours since this report came out. But I know for me, like I've gone back and forth a few different times of like, it really does talk or make you think about the ambition of the club and what they want to do this season. And everything that's kind of gone on in the last few weeks of, interviews with Jay Sugarman, the owner, about how Ernst Tanner and Jim Curtin can come to me at any time to go get another player that they need. I mean, if they sell Carranza, they're gonna have to bring in someone. And honestly, like it depends on if the club wants to have a rebuild right now or if they believe that they can win one of the two trophies that they have left to compete for, which would be MLS Cup and Leagues Cup, in my opinion. I don't think you have any shot at the Shield now with Miami playing the way that they've been playing. So yeah, it's what do you want to do? Do you want to sell the player and actually get a return for him, or keep him and let him go for free? And how they want to invest in the team that way. Paul, what are your thoughts on this Julian Carranza situation here?
To start off, I think Feyenoord's a really good spot for Carranza. You've seen Santi Jimenez really grow. He's really become a top striker in the Eredivisie there. Yeah. So I think Feyenoord's a great team. I'm happy that they're the ones that are coming in for him. Regarding when I want him to leave, as a Union fan who knows he's basically the whole attack, I really think, depending on what the club wants, I think leaving in the winter on a free would be the best decision if you have the ambition to win trophies. Yes. But I know this club has the ambition to win trophies. But at the same time, I really think it's dependent on your form in the next month or so. Like, if you win 2 and I guess lose 2 and you don't really, it looks like you're in the middle of the pack towards like the end of the playoffs, I feel like the best thing to do would to be to, depending on the money, take the money from Feyenoord if they do agree on the contract. It's big, especially if it's like 7-8 million. That's a lot of money in the MLS for a club. And I feel like Jim and Ernst could really just go to Sugarman and be like, well, we just sold our number 1 striker, so we would like a big name. I'm sure there's some guys in Europe available. I haven't really taken a look about who's a free agent who could possibly come. Personally, if I would, this hurts to say, but I would sell him in the summer and take the money. Because like I said, you don't really see MLS clubs selling players for the amount of money I think you'll get for Carranza.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, for what it's worth, like it would be most likely the records transfer for the Union. No matter whether it be 6-7 million, or if Ernst can kind of nickel and dime Feyenoord if they really want him to get up to close to 10 or more than that. What it would probably be a little bit less than 10 in my opinion. I would think maybe like 9 and then sell-ons, because Ernst Tanner loves to sell on. So I think we might be seeing something like that, which means we have limited time to see Julian Carranza with this Union team, which isn't great, but at the same time, you can't always hold on to those players, especially when, like Eric said, he's 24 and he's produced at this level in MLS. He most likely will be able to develop and produce over in Europe as well. And Eredivisie is a great first step. And then who knows where else he could go from there. I think this is probably the right time to do it, as much as it sucks from a fan standpoint. But yeah, we'll see what happens with Julian Carranza. We know, at least for now, for May and June, we'll see him a little bit more, and hopefully he bags a bunch more goals before he leaves. And yeah, we'll see what happens with that. But on to some more player news before we get to our preview of the Charlotte matches. We know the lineup just dropped. We're going to go through it in a few minutes. But other news this week: Andre Blake signed a contract extension for the next few seasons with I believe there's a club option on the end of that as well for 2027. So I believe he's locked in until 2026 with an option for 2027. Honestly, my first takeaway from that was I was very surprised. I felt like the body language and even what Andre has said this year seemed like he was kind of coming to an end of his time at this club. And I think he's a Union Ring of Honor member, but it just seemed like, him playing all of last year and not having a break, since he would go to play with Jamaica every time the Union had a break, that his body has been kind of failing him this year with injuries and things like that. But I think it shows ambition from the club and from the player that, he's the captain of this team, and he wants to stay for the next few seasons, and he wants to win another trophy here before he goes and maybe plays somewhere else. So I think it's a huge signing, one that I did not see coming, honestly. So I think it's very interesting. Paul, I'll throw it over to you because I know you kind of were following it along closely. What are your initial takeaways from Blake, staying with the club for the next few seasons here?
Yeah, like you said, it kind of shocked me. I was just sitting in the hotel, just, relaxing a little bit. And then I get a Bogart bomb, and I was like, oh, like, what could this be? It's like 2:00 on a Tuesday or Wednesday afternoon, and it says Andre Blake has agreed to an extension. I was like, whoa. Like, I guess my first takeaway was that it was very interesting, because, like you said, with the comments that Blake was saying about not having enough depth in the club, I guess the vibes were just off.
Yeah.
But after the last home game, it may have been the Orlando game. I forget which one it was, but Blake was in the concourse actually.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, he was in the concourse walking around taking pictures with the fans. So I thought that was a little interesting. Having him, I mean, it was great to see him just walking around, taking pictures, signing stuff. But I thought that was, like with the recent things going on, I thought it was, I guess, positive. Thinking that he's there, and then the contract extension just makes me think that maybe this summer is going to be a little different for the team than I expected. Maybe they're going to bring in some pieces and improve the depth, because I really think that's what this signing shows. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it solidifies depth at goalkeeper if they want to keep Ali Semla, or if they want to maybe sell him. I don't know. We'll see what kind of happens with that. But I think too, Andre Blake has been very vocal about the ambition of the team itself. And, he was quoted as saying, we'll see if the team is going to be good enough to compete for trophies this season. It's been up and down. So we'll see with that. But if he signed on for a contract extension, to me, thinking with my Posidelphia mind that I have, makes me think that the club is going to be ambitious in some sort of way to have the quality on the field to have Andre Blake lift the trophy as the captain of this club at some point. And I'm not saying it has to be this year, but he's signed on for the next 2 seasons at least. If he did that and the club has that ambition, then I'm here for it, and I'm excited to see him back with this club. Eric, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, it felt like it came out of nowhere, kind of like we've been saying. But it definitely it was a really pleasant surprise. Given everything that's been going on with Blake this season, given everything that's been going on with the team this season, it felt like a bit of really welcome good news. And like you guys have been saying, a sign of ambition for the team, not just in terms of re-signing him, but also in terms of the fact that it feels like he would have been more reluctant to resign if they hadn't made some promises in that regard. And possibly outlined some sort of plan, which it's nice to think the team might have. His leadership is going to be very important going forward, with Bedoya retiring and moving into his off-field position. As important as the youth academy products are for this team, it's vital to continue having that kind of veteran leadership, that kind of captain material within the locker room, especially at the goalkeeper position, because the keeper is seeing the whole field. They're able to they can get a better idea of what is going on than most other players on the field.
Yeah.
And that obviously helps in game, but it can also help in terms of just guiding some of the younger guys. So yeah, it's very encouraging, and it's nice to have something encouraging during the season, because there's been a lot of up and down roller coasters, some doom and gloom.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's nice to have this bit of positivity to kind of latch onto, particularly with the timing of it coming as the team's been struggling at home.
Yeah, it's very true. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say anything negative about this type of
Yeah.
sign, which is good because there's, like you said, Eric, there's just been a whole lot of up and down, positive and negative from this season. So hey, we have a few more years of Andre Blake, and I still think he is one of, if not the best goalkeepers in MLS, even with all the problems. So we'll see how everything goes, and unfortunately, we know he's not going to be in net tonight. He's still out for this this match against Charlotte. And with that, let's get to the game against Charlotte FC. So Union will take on Charlotte here tonight at 7:30. And the lineup did just drop a few minutes ago, so I'm going to go ahead and throw that up here on the screen so we can all take a look at it together. So here is your starting 11 for the Philadelphia Union. Ali Semla in goal again. We have the same backline for the third straight game, which I believe is the first time this season that we are seeing the same backline for 3 games in a row from Jim Curtin this year, which seems a little uncharacteristic, but I think he wanted to try and rest some players early on in the season. So you have Nate Harriel, Jakob Glesnes, Jack Elliott, and Kai Wagner. The midfield, Leon Flock at the 6. No El Brujo. Brujo starting on the bench, which is an interesting thought process here against Charlotte. The 2 shuttler midfielders are the homegrowns, Quinn Sullivan and Jack McGlynn. And then the front 3 is the front 3, Daniel Gazdag, Julian Carranza, Mikel Ua. This, to me, screams that the Union are going to go out and try and play with the ball, which is something we have not really talked about too much here. The Union have been playing with more possession than they normally do, even though they love to sit back and counterattack teams. So first, let's just go right into first impressions on the lineup. I'll throw it over to Eric here to start. What do you think about this lineup?
Yeah, I'm a little surprised at how attacking the midfield is, but on the other hand, it makes sense to a certain extent because both McGlynn and Sullivan didn't start last game, even though McGlynn obviously came in fairly early on. Sullivan has been kind of a linchpin in terms of our attacking play, so it makes a certain amount of sense to see him come back, even if it is a little surprising to see the midfield go that attacking. But with a fully healthy strike force and attack, it's where he slots in. So yeah, if you, other than the Martinez being out, it's not a particularly surprising lineup. You're obviously loath to change things after winning 3-0. And a lot of that came after the early substitution for us. And Flock obviously did well at the 6, even if he's not necessarily our first choice. He's still he can still do the job and do the job well. And I'm still pleasantly surprised at how well he's come back from a long-term injury.
Yeah.
It does feel like he's getting a lot of game time kind of straight away, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Hopefully he'll be able to hold up with it. I wouldn't be surprised to see Martinez come in for him at some point during this game, maybe early-ish in the second half, like 60th minute or something.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to want to run Flock into the ground. But yeah, all in all, I'm pretty happy with this lineup. I like the attacking ambition on the road, and hopefully we see the team continue to generate as many chances as it has been, and unlike recent teams against Charlotte, puts them in the back of the net.
Yeah, that is a key to this game. Charlotte has not allowed a goal in their last 4, so that's going to be key. And this Union lineup is very, 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 very attacking. So we will have to see how that goes tonight. Paul, what is your kind of first takeaways from this lineup here before we kind of dissect the keys to the game?
I'm really, like I said earlier in the podcast, I really wanted to see Flock in the lineup tonight. So I'm glad that he's back. I'm really interested to see how he does, basically alone in that alone in that sixth role by himself. Another thing is I'm really excited to see the same defensive pairing in the back line again. We talked a lot during that losing streak about how the Union just need to go back to their basics and roll with the team, the defense that we know, the defenders that we know that they can play well, and that's what they've done the last couple games. And the 2 goals against NYCFC, I know they were kind of like fluke goals, so I really won't blame the defense for that. All that, I mean, I know they lost, but at the same time, like I said, fluke goals. And then the shutout against New England, while it was down to 10 men, a shutout is a shutout in the league, and I'm really excited to see them play against a Charlotte team that's really struggling in defense and hopefully continue or attack, not defense. Basically see how they play against the Charlotte team.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Charlotte's attack because they are not one of the better attacking teams in MLS, yet they have been amassing some points here in some close games. Just looking at their last few games here, they won 2-0 against Portland, 1-0 against Nashville, 1-0 against Chicago, so not the best teams there. And then they drew 0-0 against LA. They've had, I think, 4 home games in this month, which is a lot. So they're piling up the points and they're getting those clean sheets, but their attack is not scoring many goals. And just taking a look at their starting 11 today is a typical. This is crazy. We haven't even mentioned Dean Smith is their coach. The English legend coach is now over in Charlotte. He plays 4-3-3 every game, and it's the from what the last few games have been for Charlotte, it's his 11. Then there's really 2 players that are the danger men in their attack. It's midfielder Ashley Westwood, and it's striker Patrick Agyemang, who is kind of a young and up and coming striker who seems to be has a flair for scoring some good goals, things like that. So just like looking at the keys to the game and how Charlotte kind of lines up against the Union, we're seeing a very attacking side against the Union going up against a very defensively sound side in Charlotte. And that really what it seems like Charlotte will look to do is go through those 2 players, Westwood and Agyemang, for their goal scoring threats. They lead the team in goals. Agyemang has 3, Westwood has 2. So that shows you that they don't have a lot of goal scorers right now. It's a lot of players getting 1 goal and kind of just fluky situations or set pieces like Dean Smith likes. So it'll be interesting to see how the Union goes about breaking them down. But we have seen that their lineup is a very attacking one. So that takes us to our keys to the game here. So Paul, I'll throw it over to you again first. What do you think is a key to victory for the Union, or at least to get a point on the road?
I'm gonna say we talked about him before. I think it's the play of Carranza. Charlotte's, like you said, Charlotte's defense is one of the best. I mean, they haven't a lot of goal in 4 games. You don't really see that often. Yeah. I feel like if he can get actually the play of the whole front 3, I'll go, not just Carranza. If you can get a goal against the Charlotte team, a goal or even 2, you're mainly looking like you're gonna take the 3 points from them. They don't score a lot. Looks like their game plan is just to find a way to just sneak a goal in and then just grind out a defensive 1-0, 2-0 win. So I'm going to go to play the front 3.
Yeah, I mean, if they can get a goal or 2, that tally goes over 20 goals on the season through the first 15 games for the Union. So that'll be really great to see if they can get that done. Eric, what do you think is a key to the game here for this Union team?
I'm going to go with almost the opposite. Like you said, Charlotte has seemed to thrive on getting some of these fluky goals, and this Union team has been giving up a lot of those fluky goals.
Yeah.
So I think one big key is going to be to avoid doing that and avoid going 1-0 down. because, like we've been saying, Charlotte's got a very good defense. And if they have the opportunity to go up and then shut up shop, I think we're going to struggle probably more so than we have for a while on the offensive end. So we now more than ever, it's very important to avoid doing what we've been doing all season and going down at all. I mean, going down at all, but especially early.
Yeah.
We don't want to give them the chance to just hunker down and ride it out.
Yeah, that's what they do. That's what they've been doing this year. That's why they're two spots ahead of the Union in the standings. If Union can get 3 points, they'll be a point behind them with the game in hand. So, and it'll be up to sixth place or seventh place, I believe, in the standings there. So, progress would be great to see on that end, because it seems like the Union's ambition is still to be a top 4 team in the East, and there's work to do. There's work to do there. For me, I think a key to this game, and I kind of wrote about it in my 5 predictions article about this game, was going to be stopping Westwood and Ajiman as the 2 danger men. And to me, I thought the solution was going to be to have a more defensive lineup. Jim Curtin is kind of going the opposite way there. But I really thought if you had Brujo and Flock on the field at the same time, you could kind of lock up those 2 attacking players, because they're in the middle of the 4-4-3 there. Westwood's in the middle of the field, Ajiman's in the middle of the attack. But we'll see how Leon Flock can do by himself as a single pivot there, and if he'll need more help from players like Sullivan and McGlynn tracking back, because if there's one thing that we don't want to see the Union in right now, it's a back and forth contest, because we've seen how they've been hit on the counter and those fluky goals go in off 3 passes that take 6 players out each pass. It's just so un-Union like in the last few seasons here. So I think that's going to be a major key to the game, as well as the play of Leon Flock and just the midfield in general, of how they can stop those danger players there, especially in the build-up. We've talked about the back line. Their job is going to be obviously to stop Ajiman as well, but I think that they're more solid than a Leon Flock kind of on an island by himself tonight. So we'll see how that goes. Sort of what you were saying, Eric, I would think Brujo might come in the second half to kind of solidify things and shut him down a little bit more. I hope that's, Union are up a goal and they bring on Brujo and they kind of just lock it down and they find a way to get maybe one more. But we'll see how that goes there. Real quick before we get into our on the volley takes, do you guys have anything else that you want to just throw out there as a key to the game for the Union, or something that stood out to you on the lineup? Eric, I'll throw it over to you first. Is there anything else that this team can really do to make sure that they keep this unbeaten road streak going?
Finishing their chances, being clinical. We might not get as many as we're used to, so that being clinical just becomes all the more important. And this kind of goes along with what Paul was saying in terms of keys of the game, just having our strikers firing. And if they're not firing, hopefully the more offensive-minded midfield can. But someone needs to put the ball in the back of the net with the however many chances we get.
Yeah. Yeah, I think with the lineup, Jim Curtin is really going for that. It seems like he wants that first ever win at Charlotte, because the Union have never won there. We all know back in 2022, the first game in Charlotte was a disaster. It was the 4-0 game where Daniel Rios scored 3. And that was the game that essentially cost the Union winning the Supporter Shield and getting home field advantage in the playoffs where they went to MLS Cup. So that game probably is on his mind, at least as the coach of he probably wants to put that to bed and get that win. But Paul, I'll throw it over to you. Anything else on the lineup or players that kind of stand out to you that need to, play exceptionally well today to get that result?
One player, in my opinion, is Jack McGlynn. Yeah. I've been working on a piece the last week. I haven't really been able to finish it due to me being busy, but I feel like Jack McGlynn is incredibly vital to the way this team runs. Yeah. Especially him and Kai on the same side with both their left foots. Our left side is one of our dominant sides that we play through. And if he's whipping them crosses in, there's going to be someone there to put in the back of the net. So I think Jack McGlynn he's had a lot of good games. He's gonna need to have another one to get this annoying winless run at Charlotte out of the way. The whole 2 years.
Yeah, I know it's. I mean, it's been kind of been a back and forth series the first 2 seasons that the teams have played each other. Union have won both home games, and then they drew and lost on the road. So yeah, it would be great to get a first win down in Charlotte, and it would be great for the confidence of the Union team as if they could get a second win, or if they could even just get another point on the road to keep the unbeaten streak going. That would work wonders. With there's 2 games coming up again next week. Both are they both at home? No, I can't remember. I know the Union are at home on Wednesday. They play Toronto FC. Who do they play on Saturday? Oh, they are home again against Montreal. So you got 2 Canadian teams coming to Subaru Park next week. So it would be huge to start another unbeaten streak like we saw kind of in the middle or beginning of the season after the Pachuca game. So maybe, the losing streak was kind of the linchpin to another winning streak here. That hopefully we'll get to see. But guys, it's that time where we're coming towards the end of the show. So it's time for our On the Volley takes. I'm going to throw mine out there first today. So my on the volley take is that the Union front three's goal tally will go to 20 or above in this game, which would mean that they'd have to score at least 1 or 2 goals. And we know Charlotte don't give up many goals, but I just see the way that this team has been creating shots like you've brought up, Eric, and the front three themselves have been really the goal scorers this season, with the exception of Quinn Sullivan getting a few, maybe Bedoya, maybe Jack McGlynn, people like that, maybe a defender coming up on a set piece, but it's really been the front three. So I see Ua and Carranza getting goals tonight, and I see a 2-0 Union win, which would be another clean sheet on the road, start of a winning streak. Posidelphia is back in my mind. I don't know. We'll see what happens. If they lose, will the sky be falling? Maybe. We don't know. But that's my on the volley take for this game at Charlotte. So Eric, I'll throw it to you for yours next here.
Oh man, I'm trying to think of a good one. I'm gonna say that we see a Bueno goal.
Oh, okay.
I'm thinking. So here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking the Union are up 1-0.
Okay.
Bueno gets brought on to help solidify things. Martinez is already on, so have the 2 of them there, and Bueno gets us our second goal. I'm thinking it's gonna end 2-1.
Okay.
I think Charlotte will get 1, almost in a role reversal of what we've seen from the Union most of the season. I think we'll be up 2-0 and have to be defending against the team, trying to get back in the game for once. And it'll probably be at least a little bit fluky of a goal that we give up. But yeah, I'm going to say 2-1 with a Bueno goal.
I love it. Paul, over to you.
I'm going to go for something a little crazy here. So I'll start off by saying, when I'm talking about my prediction, think about how Charlotte hasn't allowed a lot of goals and the Union have been getting a lot of shots. So I think tonight's going to be the night that Charlotte allows a lot of goals. I think the Union strikers are finally the New England game was big, getting 3 goals on the road, playing on turf again. I believe they're playing on turf. I don't know if Charlotte is turf. So playing on turf back-to-back games, it's pretty big. I'm thinking you're going to get a 4-1 win tonight.
Whoa. I mean,
yeah, I think like Eric said earlier in the podcast, the Union have been getting 15, 20 shots on goal. It feels like just about every game, but you only get like 4 or 5 on target. I think they're going to finally find their way to get clinical. They're going to put a couple in the back of the net, and life is going to be good coming into this Wednesday match against Toronto.
Hey, I mean, if the Union score 4 goals in Charlotte, it'll be like nothing bad ever happened this year. And honestly, right now, I'm fine with that. It's Memorial Day weekend. Like the vibes are up. Like we've been watching soccer all day, like we've said at the beginning of the podcast. Let's hope that the vibes continue. We get to see another dominant Union performance. But guys, that'll do it for another episode of Doop on the Volley. Please make sure to follow and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, as well as we do put this out as an audio version later on, whether that's Google, Spotify, Apple, whatever you got. And follow us on our socials on Twitter and Instagram at Doop on the Volley. If you type that in, you'll be able to find us. We'll be a lot more active here, especially as the summer goes on, as Union season kind of ramps up, and we'll get into summer tournaments as well. We'll get to see international tournaments, maybe some Union players heading off to represent their national teams in different tournaments. So it's going to be a really good time to follow along. And thank you to all of our viewers, over the 100 of you that have been in here from the start. So that's awesome. And we'll see you guys next time on Doop on the Volley. See you later, guys. Yeah. Listen.